specialty speeches where you read something, because in different situations you might have to read in front of an audience. So it's a project where you can read for your Toastmasters project and gain experience doing that and get feedback. He has chosen to read a selection from My Stroke of Insight by Jill Bolt Taylor. Dr. Taylor is an expert in the neuroanatomy of the brain who suffered a stroke in her brain, survived, and then wrote about the experience, especially on how it affected her perception of right and left brain thinking. Please welcome Ken with Reading Out Loud.
Morning of the stroke. It was 7 a.m. on December 10th, 1996. I awoke to the familiar tick-tick-tick of my compact disc player as it began winding up to play. Sleepily, I hit the snooze button just in time to catch the next mental wave back into dreamland. Here in this magic land I call Thetaville, a surreal place of altered consciousness somewhere between dreams and stark reality, my spirit being beautiful, fluid, and free from the confines of normal reality. 6 minutes later, as the tick-tick-tick of the CD alerted my memory that I was a land mammal, I sluggishly awoke to a sharp pain piercing my brain directly behind my left eye. Squinting into the early morning light, I clicked off the impending alarm with my right hand and instinctively pressed the palm of my left hand firmly against the side of my face. Rarely ill, I thought how queer it was for me to awaken to such a striking pain. As my left eye pulsed with a slow and deliberate rhythm, I felt bewildered and irritated. The throbbing pain behind my eye was sharp, like the caustic sensation that sometimes accompanies biting into ice cream. As I rolled out of my warm waterbed, I stumbled into the world with the ambivalence of a wounded soldier. I closed the bedroom window blind to block the incoming stream of light from stinging my eyes. I decided that exercise might get my blood flowing and perhaps help dissipate the pain. Within moments, I hopped onto my cardio glider, a full-body exercise machine, and began jamming away to Shania Twain singing the lyrics, "Whose bed have your boots been under?" Immediately, I felt a powerful and unusual sense of dissociation roll over me. I felt so peculiar that I questioned my well-being. Even though my thoughts seemed lucid, my body felt irregular. As I watched my hands and arms rocking forward and back, in opposing synchrony with my torso, I felt strangely detached from my normal cognitive functions. It was as if the integrity of my mind-body connection had somehow become compromised. Feeling detached from normal reality, I seemed to be witnessing my activity as opposed to feeling like the active participant performing the action. I felt as though I was observing myself in motion, as in the playback of a memory. My fingers, as they grasped onto the handrail, looked like primitive claws. A few seconds I rocked and watched with riveting wonder as my body oscillated rhythmically and mechanically. My torso moved up and down in perfect cadence with the music, and my head continued to ache. I felt bizarre, as if my conscious mind was suspended somewhere between my normal reality and some esoteric space. Although the experience was somewhat reminiscent of my morning time in Thetaville, I was sure that this time I was awake. Yet, I felt as if I was trapped inside the perception of a meditation that I could neither stop nor escape. Dazed, I felt the frequency of shooting pangs escalate inside my brain, and I realized that this exercise regime was probably not a good idea. Feeling a little nervous about my physical condition, I climbed off the machine and bumbled through my living room on the way to the bath. As I walked, I noticed that my movements were no longer fluid. Instead, they felt deliberate and almost jerky. In the absence of my normal muscular coordination, there was no grace to my pace, and my balance was so impaired that my mind seemed completely preoccupied with just keeping me upright. As I lifted my leg to step into the tub, I held on to the wall for support. It seemed odd that I could sense the inner activities of my brain as it adjusted and readjusted all of the opposing muscle groups in my lower extremities to prevent me from falling over. My perception of these automatic body responses was no longer an exercise in intellectual conceptualization. Instead, I was momentarily privy to a precise and experiential understanding of how hard the 50 trillion cells in my brain and body were working in perfect unison to maintain the flexibility and integrity of my physical form. Through the eyes of an avid enthusiast of the magnificence of the human design, I witnessed with awe the autonomic functioning of my nervous system as it calculated and recalculated every joint angle. Ignorant to the degree of danger my body was in, I balanced my weight against the shower wall. As I leaned forward to turn on the faucet, I was startled by an abrupt and exaggerated clamor as water surged into the tub. This unexpected amplification of sound was both enlightening and disturbing. It brought me to the realization that, in addition to having problems with coordination and equilibrium, my ability to process incoming sound, auditory information, was erratic. I understood neuroanatomically that coordination, equilibrium, audition, and the action of inspirational breathing were processed through the ponds of my brainstem. For the first time, I considered the possibility that I was perhaps having a major neurological malfunction that was life-threatening. As my cognitive mind searched for an explanation about what was happening anatomically inside my brain, I reeled backward in response to the augmented roar of the water as the unexpected noise pierced my delicate and aching brain. In that instant, I felt vulnerable, and I noticed the constant brain chatter that routinely familiarized me with my surroundings was no longer a predictable and constant flow of conversation. Instead, my verbal thoughts were now inconsistent, fragmented, and interrupted by intermittent silence. Confused, I searched my memory banks of both my body and brain, questioning and analyzing anything I could remember having experienced in the past that was remotely similar to this situation. What is going on? I wondered. Have I ever experienced anything like this? Have I ever felt like this before? This feels like a migraine. What is happening to my brain? Although the sporadically discontinuous flow of normal cognition was virtually incapacitating, somehow I managed to keep my body on task. Stepping out of the shower, my brain felt inebriated. My body was unsteady, felt heavy, and exerted itself in very slow motion. What is it I'm trying to do? Dress for work? I'm dressing for work? I labored mechanically to choose my clothes, and by 8:15 a.m., I was ready for my commute. Pacing my apartment, I thought, okay, I'm going to work. Do I know how to get to work? Can I drive? As I visualized the road to McLean Hospital, I was literally thrown off balance when my right arm dropped completely paralyzed against my side. In that moment, I knew, oh my gosh, I'm having a stroke. I'm having a stroke. And in the next instant, the thought flashed through my mind, wow, this is so cool. I felt as though I was suspended in a peculiar euphoric stupor, and I was strangely elated when I understood that this unexpected pilgrimage into the intricate functions of my brain actually had a physiological basis and explanation. I kept thinking, wow, how many scientists have the opportunity to study their brain function and mental deterioration from the inside out? My entire life had been dedicated to my own understanding of how the human brain creates our perception of reality. And now I was experiencing this most remarkable stroke of insight. Thank you.